Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I have a fabulous group with me this evening. All have been co-hosts on who have been and are co-hosts on this program. So no guests per se. So I'm going to go round in order and just say, hi, Scott. Thank you for joining us. Lovely to have you here.
Lovely to be here as always.
Hello, Patricia. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Lovely to be here.
And hello, David. Great for you to be here as well. Oh.
Hi there. Yes, sorry, you broke up a bit. Was that me?
It was you. Oh, right. Okay.
But yeah, it's lovely to be here.
Great. Now, our program this evening is we're doing a Q&A. You can ask us questions. We haven't set a specific topic. So we're going to be open to the questions you ask. So if there's any of you watching live, please just put your question in the chat. But we are going to wait to see if that happens. What we're going to do is we've had some questions come in and we're going to start with those. And actually, do you know what, Scott, I know you've had a couple, pick one of your questions and let's ask that one.
I think I will. So the question is, I've just lost my wife 6 months ago to cancer. It was a 3-year fight she succumbed to. How do I move forward? I feel like a zombie walking through each day. Tears, which I never really experienced, still come rather easily. What would you suggest for those of us experiencing recent loss? So for me, as I asked the question and have spoken on this many times, my wife was a 20-year breast cancer survivor and finally succumbed to it about 6 years ago. The first year that we were married for 39 years, and the first year was just survival. Wondering if I could get out of bed, wondering if I could go to sleep, wondering why the cat wouldn't talk to me more. It was just survival. And in the recent loss, you go through just painful, not wanting to think about it. Or when you do think about it, there are tears that just, there were times when I would drive home in full tears on the way home from work. For no reason. A song would come on the radio and it would just blow me away. Someone would say something or a picture and that was the first few months. And it got a little bit easier. And I knew that I was doing much better when instead of the tears, there was a smile. That I remembered the time with my wife, that there would be silly things that she did that no one else ever saw that I knew were there. Things that I found in the house that she had left, that as we were cleaning, we found. And I remembered my wife never really truly threw anything away. So it was something from 25 years ago with her name on it and a note, just something strange. And so it's for me and for those I've spoken with, and I've been in grief groups and support groups, and it's trying to live instead of survive. Initially, it was survival, and then you see little peaks. A friend of mine said, "I haven't seen you smile in a year," and I didn't realize that. And it was just coming into feeling again, and when not being afraid of the the emotions that would come up, not being afraid of, because they were overwhelming, especially initially. They just kind of wash over you and just they're debilitating. And then they become a little smaller. They aren't tsunami waves anymore. They're just strong waves. You kind of you brace yourself, and it crashes against you. And okay, I survived that one. And then it comes as just regular waves, like you were sitting on the beach. And for me, it's just getting used to that rhythm. And it's not throwing somebody away or throwing emotions away or not accepting them. It's knowing that they're a part of you. And for me, that's the acceptance part of grief, is that having it always there, knowing it's there, not trying to take it out of you, not trying to get rid of it, not trying to get over it. Of course, everyone tells you got to get over it, right? Which doesn't happen. But it's a part of you, and it makes you stronger. It makes you that much. For me, it makes me a fuller human being, a much more complete human being. And for me, it brought a lot of compassion into my life, where I didn't have it before. I was A, B, C, yes, no. That was it. No gray. And then I realized that with that compassion, everything's gray. But there is more sunshine, there's more joy, there's more life to live. And it allowed me to see inside myself that I really wanted to live. And so now I tell everybody that I'm the luckiest 18-year-old out there, because I'm 65 and I get to live my best 18-year-old life.
Thank you, Scott. Patricia.
Wow. Well, first of all, may I say, I do extend my sympathies to you, Scott, but it sounds as if you have really come a wonderful journey, because it's been a journey of your heart and your soul. For me, it's been about you learning to love yourself more, to be able to, if you like, accommodate the great love you had for your wife and really value it, appreciate it from a whole different perspective now. And I know that knowing what you know now about your spiritual reality and life, that I think somebody wrote a poem about, I'm just in the next room. And that really resonates for me, because that is how I feel that what happens really. And so those that move on to, I believe, elevate to the next level, if you like, are with us and overseeing how we're doing on our journey. But it really, for me, it's about gratitude for the opportunity to have that relationship and really grow through it, because there would be tremendous growth as you had to deal with the illness and all of that. And compassion, what a lesson in life that is. And that's the beautiful divine feminine coming through your masculinity, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And making that space for her to be able to express that amazing love and healing and gratitude, so that when you do pass and go on and reconnect, not that you're disconnected in any way, because you're not, but reconnect on that other level. Wow, you're going to have quite a party. It's going to be quite a celebration out there. And I really feel that, and she's like an angel with you just now. You probably, if you're really listening, you'll just hear that little voice coming in and prompting you to do this or try that, or have you thought about this? So yeah, it is. It's like they're just in another room and she's there and she's with you. And yeah, I mean, to begin with, I just think it's like pure numbness, really, isn't it? You go into shock. And so it's about being really gentle with yourself and loving yourself just the way she loved you and expanding on that love together. Yes.
Just to say one thing, humorous. My wife was very Irish,
Yeah.
and so I went to a friend who was a medium, and she brought her through, validated, and was saying things that nobody else knew. And she did. My wife spoke through her and did something that she only did once any other time in her life. And she said she was wrong and she was sorry. She said that once to me once. Being Irish, she was always right. Trust me. Or even if she wasn't right, I was wrong. So, but she did from the other side say that she was sorry. And that was only the second time she'd ever done that. So I bring that along. But she sits right here, right on my shoulder.
Yes.
Always.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know about the Irish being always right. I'm married to a Dubliner, so I know the feeling.
David.
Well, thanks for sharing, Scott, so much of your personal experiences and that. And I think it doesn't matter what side of life you think upon, whether it was, we're here and that's it, or whether we're here and we go to another dimension, our soul goes to another dimension. When you lose somebody, nothing anybody can say, will fill that physical space that has been left. And I felt that I lost 3 members of my immediate family within 5 years recently. My mum, my dad, and my sister, all within 5 years. And there wasn't really the space between to adjust. But what I found, like yourself, was I'd walk down, I'd see a loaf of bread that my mum used to buy on the shelf, and the emotions just come flooding out for no reason at all. And you think, oh my goodness me, you think you're the only one going through this at the time. That's how I felt. I kept questioning it. And then my dad passed, and then my sister passed. And there was so much going on. It was very overwhelming. But I just had to say, well, I can't put a time on this. I know they say time heals, but I had to give myself the space rather than the time. And think, because that took the pressure off of me saying, oh, I've got to get through this bit of anger, or this bit of why was I not there? Why could I not do so much? Should I have done more? And I was putting all this guilt on me as well. So I just had to give back the space. And it's taken, I suppose, even now, there's still thoughts go through my head. So I don't think sometimes it ever leaves you, or at the moment it's still with me. But I know they're so close. And once they're family, they are family. The connection will never go away. And I know they pop in from time to time, especially my dad. He's got such a great sense of humor. And he comes through and he said to me, he said, David, when you get up here, he said, I can't wait to show you around. He said, now I've got one up on you because I can see how everything happens. So, you know, they are, although that physical has gone, I found that just those few words or those sensations that are around are really, really comforting. But every so often, I'll sit and watch a telly and I think, oh, that was my dad's favourite programme before he passed. And it was a Red Bull soapbox race. And it used to crease him up. And it was, you know, that comes on and I just fill up. So I think it's lovely because it shows love that they have for you and you have for them as well. That emotion coming through.
Thank you, David. You've all shared so brilliantly. All I would say is love yourself enough to let yourself grieve. You're unique. How you deal with this, it's important that you allow the time. You know, many people will say, oh, at least 2 years. So don't try and hurry it. They are with you. I love the way that Neil Donald Walsh talks about it being our continuation day, because we are a soul having a physical experience. And I suppose when my father died, it really helped me. It was amazing how that one thing, it being our continuation day rather than the day they died, it's terminology. And he's still here. My was it my great niece? She became aware on the day of his funeral of him standing outside the block of flats with a dog. She had no idea my parents had had a dog. And my youngest sister said to me, she said, well, Sarah, will you invite him in? Because dogs apparently weren't allowed in the flats. And I said, you can do it. But I did. And, you know, and I became aware that Dad was upstairs in Mum's flat with the dog. But what helps you? What supports you? Grief counselling works for some people, it doesn't work for others. Listening to how other people have gone through it the way Scott has. I'm not a good example because my father was suffering from 4 lots of cancer. He wasn't the man that I remember being my father. So, and I gave him permission to let go. So I was so pleased for him that he was no longer suffering. And so that's how I dealt with it. I couldn't really shed a tear because for me, he wasn't suffering anymore, and he's still right there with his 3 daughters, his wife. But he was a little boy of 5 when his own mother died. And when I gave him permission, it was, your mum's right here waiting for you. And he got to 80, and actually, as much as he loved all of us, I knew what he was after most was the hug, the cuddle, the presence of his mother. So it is different, you know. Believe in yourself. Absolutely trust in the love that you had for each other, and know that she's there with you. And I hope that something of what we've shared here will support you and help you to realize that actually you're doing brilliantly. Just trust and believe in yourself. So I think we can go on to something very different. Patricia.
All right. Okay. Well, I think Bill would be okay with me saying that this was really his question for the team. And it's sort of born out of talking to a neighbour of ours who is very into the Bible at a very deep level. And he quotes the revelation a lot to us and things, and it's not our bag, but we acknowledge that's his bag, that's fine. However, just recently, there have been a number of people saying that people believe in the biblical prophecies that were made about the wars in the Middle East that are kicking off now and have been doing so, and that these prophecies have to be, number one, enacted and achieved, whatever the outcomes are, achieved before we can actually progress to the new world that we're all talking about creating. So basically, it has been a source of discussion in the House. And Bill was just wondering what your take on that would be. How do you feel about these ancient prophecies being brought to fruition? And indeed, some people feeling that has to happen before we can, as a whole, go forward.
So, Patricia, as you have put the question, why don't you share with us first?
Right, okay. Well, I guess I'm quite simplistic about this. When I first heard what was being said, I thought, well, we humans have free will. So what we're talking about here, self-fulfilling prophecies made thousands of years ago. And I thought, well, we can choose not to go down that road to create new neural pathways or whatever you talk about in the brain and all of that. But then in came the next bit, and that was, well, okay, we might choose, those of us who are light workers, love workers, we might choose to go down a certain route and say, well, we're not going to do that, we're going to do X, Y, or Z. However, there are, and it comes back to the war, the battle between the light and the dark, doesn't it? Because there are dark factions that are programmed, if you like, to fulfill that darker agenda and go down that route. And that's them expressing their free will. So I actually got myself into a bit of a knot with this one because I thought, well, I can only say what I feel, and what I feel would be obviously working for the light, working for the good, and bringing it, putting as much of that in as we can to raise the vibration, raise the whole situation. And I mean, it just so happens that I know that the light has already won, and yet this other faction is going to play out. But what I'm not clear about, what I wouldn't like to think or feel, is that, this has all got to be enacted before we can go to the next level or create the next world, the new world, if you like. Because in many ways I feel we are already in the fifth dimension. We're already, many of us feel we're living in a different world to many others on the planet. And so, I mean, it's interesting. It is. I can understand why Bill was asking what we all thought about it, because it is the good and the evil. There's no two ways about it. Ever since I started this stuff back in the 70s or 80s, I think there was a Madame Blavatsky. I don't know if any of you remember her, and she used to go on about the battle. Do you remember the battle that was going on all around us, and we were unaware of that? So anyway, I just offer it to you. It's for me, it's quite clear cut that I only know what I can do and what my soul is going to do, and that's follow the light and expand it as much as I can. But I do think I have to be aware of the other thing too. What thinkest thou?
David?
That's a real deep question from Bill. Thank him very much. When I was sitting here, it was like if we look back before the biblical times, history has repeated itself time and time again. And things have fallen, and things have grown, and then things have fallen again. And it's very much like I agree. There's so many people now to the prophecies or the fables and everything else in the Bible. And I think we constantly are on a shift. And I think what it's showing is let's go into these. They're going to happen, these, let's say, crises or breakdowns, but let's have a different view from what happened before. Like, can we learn from the past? You know, if this is going to come up, what didn't happen to bring the light in last time? And then, like you say, continue towards the light and don't get brought into the darkness. It's like Atlantis, when that got out of control and the dark side took over, it collapsed. And then the light workers went out and spread their light. So we can compare these prophecies maybe for what's gone on time after time in the past 5 centuries, where things have collapsed. But let's this time, where if they're going to collapse, let's build with light rather than building on a lower vibrational level, you know. And I think we are in a time when so many people understand what the light is about and the light that they are individually carrying, because they're all born onto this planet with light, and we've brought the light here for a reason. So anything that's going on, let's rebuild and let's walk into this new world that we can rebuild with the light. It is craziness at the moment, whichever way you look at it. But if we just keep shining the light out there, we are here to rebuild with light. And I think that's what we've got to take from it. Yes, we are warned there's going to be catastrophes. Look at the floods that are happening. For whatever reason, you know, there was talk of the big floods and everything else. But let's take from that light on things. Maybe it's to bring people together, so we are a unity together. But I think these stories are there. We can understand them, but let's look at them. It's given us the opportunity to rebuild with light and not darkness.
Thank you, David.
I hope that explains it.
Thank you.
Scott?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was off or not. So if I may, raised a Methodist, converted to Catholicism, and found myself to be an accidental Buddhist. So in discovering all of this and reading the Bible, as a Protestant, you read the Bible. As a Catholic, you listen to the priest who kind of interprets the Bible. When I converted, I had a priest who was a history major. So we delved deeply into the Bible and all of that. And while I understood the stories, it's more about the philosophy. People take revelations and try to make it, apply it to current day or different situations and everything else. And like everything in the Bible, they'll take virtually everything as it is written in the King James Version, knowing fully well that it's about 5 times reinterpreted, misinterpreted, applied over from different languages, depending on what part of the country or the continent or the world they were from, and to be able to interpret it. So my take on all of this is that the older religions, older than Christianity, that have come down and through, have all prophesied kind of a very similar type of situation, and it's a coming together of energies and destructive forces and everything else, and New World is born from that. That is my understanding, my interpretation. And I'm sure that at some point that will happen in some way, in form and fashion. But as a light worker and in learning and hearing and connecting with all these people, by the way, with everything on my Facebook, on everything on, all my feeds and all my emails, I think that there are millions of people doing the work we do. Yeah, not so much. We're actually a very small percentage who actually think and work and do what we do. And I think that we're the ones that are lifting and helping others see the way to lift the world higher vibrationally, higher understanding. And you see that with each generation. Is this new generation of 20 and 30-year-olds have an entirely different outlook on life, on the planet, on their sensitivities to injustice, all of those things, because everything is lifted up. And it's going to be a generational change. It's not going to happen like this, but it will happen, and it's raising. And if we do our part, if we impart our words, if we impart our understanding as we go along, more and more people will hear it, and maybe they'll follow the path also.
Thank you, Scott. I was raised a Catholic. I don't know whether I've read the whole Bible or not, to be perfectly honest, but no two ways about the fact I've shifted away from religions altogether, to be perfectly honest. Yes, I believe. Yes, I have beliefs. I really do. As for the destruction that is going on at the moment, I'm going back to Neil Donald Walsh. Perhaps when everything's falling apart, it is actually falling together. And so am I happy about what's happening in the Far East, in Ukraine and with Russia, in so many countries, far too many places is it happening, where people are at war. And in the Middle East, it's about religion. Yet all religions preach love one another. But then they add the providing you believe what I believe. I just forget that bit. Just love one another. Whatever your belief, there's the dark and the light in both those religions. It is not that one is against the other. It is that somebody thinks, oh, we can do this and we can control. It is about human beings. It is not about religion, but they are using religion. And that I struggle with, because there are so many really good people within every religion on this planet. And it is time to stop fighting and start talking and listening to each other and realizing that actually, in so many cases, we are all on the same page. And there, Scott, there are thousands, if not millions. Well, no, there are millions of us doing this work. Maybe not out in the forefront the way that we're doing it and making our voices heard. But I've just got don't know about you, but I see so many amazing quotes and inspirations. LinkedIn is amazing for that. Maybe it's just because I've connected with all the right people, you know, sort of, but it is. And there's loads on Facebook, and I'm sure there's loads on the others. They're the only two I do. By holding love for those situations, we help to keep the vibration high. There is no point in going into anger or anything negative about those situations, because all we will do is add to the anger and negativity that's already there. It's holding the love. And so whether it's been prophesied or not, it's been a prophecy or not, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't matter. It's happening, and it is about holding the love. And again, I think Neil Donald Walsh's books, Conversation with God, made so much sense to me, but I had to read all three of book 1, 2, and 3 for it to do that. And as hard as it is to understand, but we all come down with agreements. All choose to have experiences. And all those people's involved in that, in the tsunamis, the Boxing Day tsunami that happened, and all the other disasters that happened, the volcanoes that have been erupting, etc., etc. Everybody's come with an agreement for the experiences they're having. We've come with the agreement to hold the light, to raise the vibration. And I do genuinely believe it has to fall apart. There has to become a new world order that supports the whole rather than the individual and those who are determined to make money out of things. It's not about money. It's about people. And I won't go any further because I can get. So thank you for that question, Bill. Don't know whether you got the answer you were expecting, but hey. Right, David, I believe you have a question. Oh, we can't hear you. David, can you turn your, have you got, is your mic off? It looks like your mic might be off.
There we go. Is that better?
Yes. Good, we can hear you.
Thank you. I muted it while other people were speaking. There was a kind of general question come up. I co-facilitated a meditation group last night. We meet once a month. And it's just a small group of about 5 or 6 of us. And the question came up, and I thought, I'll bring this forward to see what other people think. Everybody was saying, oh, it's nice when we get in the group, but how much when we do the meditations on our own does it really help? If we're doing a meditation for peace or we're doing a meditation for that, because when we're in a group, there's a big lot of light. So how do we, as an individual, if we're doing a meditation to send up love or peace or whatever, how much difference is that making? And my answer was, well, if you think there are 8 billion beacons of light on this planet, and if everybody singly during the day spent 10 minutes putting love up, then that's going to flood the world. So I just wondered what you thought. I said I'd bring it forward and see what other people thought, you know, I think is to make sure that they feel that they are doing something and they're not wasting sitting there for their 10 minutes on their own, maybe.
Thank you, David. Scott.
I don't know who wants to
take that
first.
The power of I got it. The power of group meditation has always been amazing. I mean, it's almost exponential when you sit in group. It multiplies it not by 2, by 4, by 6, but exponentially to the 6th power. And it always feels that way. Whenever I've been involved in a group when we're doing those kind of meditations, it always feels that way. But you only do that every so often. I mean, unless you're doing it 24/7, unless you're doing it on a daily basis, you're not going to kind of get that impact. And it's, for me, it's always been daily meditations. And in those daily meditations, I hold, when I pause and I hold that energy that has come down, I send it out to anybody who needs it. I send it out whoever is ill, who's hurting, who needs companionship, who needs love, who needs healing, anybody. And I spread that out for as far as it'll go. And the funny thing is I've had people text me on a day that I've thought of them and sent it to them specifically, and reached out and said, "Did you do something today?" So I know that I've been able to impact them in a positive way. So for me, meditation, and as we said, 8 billion people, each sending light up each and every day, will make an impact. We all do that in our own small way. You know, when I started this, I wanted to save the world. I wanted to put my cape on, I wanted to fly, and I wanted to save everybody. I wanted nobody to suffer. I wanted nobody to be to not be healed. I wanted to save everybody. And I found out, not going to happen. And much like a lighthouse, the lighthouse does not go across the land trying to shine the light. They're in a fixed spot, and they shine the light for where they are and what they know. And so for me, I'm taking that energy, I send it out, but I also bring it within first, so that the brighter light that I can be, the more I can impact those around me. And so therefore, the meditations allow me to be much brighter. And that's how I'm changing me, so that the world will change with me.
Thank you, Scott. Patricia.
Thank you.
Well, it's really interesting that you should bring that up, because I was writing my newsletter today, and I thought I'm just going to share this new factoid that I was made aware of just the other day. When I first started meditating many years ago now, with the Reiki groups and things like that, we were told that we could affect perhaps half a dozen people within our immediate sphere of influence, shall we say. And then, of course, as you gathered bigger groups, it was going out even further. So I listen a lot to Greg Braden. He's a scientist, but he's also a spiritual leader, a visionary, and he is linked into many of the big institutes, things like that, who measure these kind of things, who give us the figures that validate what we might be saying tonight, and wondering, well, how many people do we actually affect if we're sitting and entraining our energy in a group? And so his latest figure was that one individual, and I nearly fell off my chair when he said it, influences 7 million people now. And this is apparently proven. And I thought to myself, when I got to the end of the saying, it was about an hour, I thought, I've got to listen to that again, because I was sort of listening and not taking in where he said he'd got that information to validate it. Now, I'm still not quite sure. It could have been the Heart Math Institute, I'm not sure. But anyway, I really do trust him. And I reckon if he's found someone that's saying that kind of thing, I believe it. And I just thought that was an awesome factor, because really, I think when human beings know how powerful they are, and I think daily they're beginning to realize that they are more and more powerful. If we truly believe we are one with everything, we are therefore one with our Creator, our God, or whatever we're going to call him or her, if we have that pulsating through us from the cosmos into our beings, and then we harness the power of our intention, along with the power of our beautiful hearts and souls, and pull it all together and sit in circle. And I'm organising one for the 22nd of this month in the community of divine love, and get as many as I can together in the ether. We can't meet, but we can do it together just by our intentions, and be sending out to everyone in need, without necessarily qualifying that, but just all those in need of a vibrational uplifting or whatever is necessary. And so I was very much spurred on by that. And I'll just share a wee story with you, which take 2 minutes. But I did do, I was giving a talk in Glasgow at a Reiki gathering on one occasion. There were about 150 people in the room, and I did a visualization meditation with them, and I got everybody to focus their intention to heal the immediate area of central Glasgow, which is where we were. And I said, so form the intention that every heart in the centre of Glasgow is going to be filled with love, and those that had any intentions of doing any crimes or anything like that, it's all going to be melted away into love. And, I sort of went on like that for quite a while, maybe 20 minutes or something. We did that. And at the same time, I'm kind of thinking, when I finished and you do all that, everybody loved it. And, how are we going to know? How are we going to know? Well, no word of a lie. This is absolutely true. On the Monday, it came on the news that Glasgow police were reporting a 20% reduction in crime, and they had no idea what the cause was. And I will always remember that. I remember saying to Bill, yes! So the universe was listening, and they thought, she needs to know this really works. So that was my little story. But I mean, it was so true. And there isn't anything we can't do. I actually get very excited about this these days, because it's that power of intention. We're harnessing God force through us, and we can just set our, whatever we want to do and have a go. So that we're doing that on the 22nd of January. If any of you would like to come along, you're more than welcome. There you go.
Thank you, Patricia. And I'm so pleased you brought up that word intention, because for me, what I sort of tend to do is, if I'm sort of sharing something, be it on the internet, whatever it is, and it doesn't matter whether anybody's listening immediately, it's please just hold the intention that if you're participating, I've shared how to create a healing ball. If you are participating in this, whenever you participate in it, I'm holding the intention. Please hold the intention that it will join with everybody else's that does this whenever they do it. And that is all you have to ask, and that set the intention. So if somebody's doing a meditation on their own at home, you hold the intention that it combines with anybody else who's doing anything similar for the same purpose, reason, for the good. Mm-hmm. You're holding the love, you're holding the intention for the highest good of all. And so that's all I would really say, adding to what the other two have said, is you can ask by setting the intention that your meditation joins with others, therefore giving it that extra power. So I hope that answers the question. And one quickly, we have got 10 minutes left, but if I've got a question here. Recently, someone I know, their actions and remarks were very nasty and hurtful. I am struggling with what they said and how it is making me feel. Please, any suggestions on how I can deal with this? My personal suggestion is, and I know this isn't easy when you are hurting, but you are giving them permission to hurt you, when actually what has been done has been said. And there's a saying, isn't there? Only hurt people hurt. It may have had absolutely nothing to do with you. So a place to start would be to forgive yourself for allowing that person to have that much power over you, and to take it back and, okay, that was their stuff. If you have done something that created that, it's also about forgiveness of yourself for what may have been your participation in that. But take your feelings about what they have done out of it. You are, okay, I'm going to say you're better than that. You are so much better than that. Trust and believe in yourself, not in what another says. Scott.
So I'm going to take a slightly different perspective on what you just said. And I was going to say ditto because I agree with everything you said. But the other part of that is that those feelings that come up when people say those things and we take them in, we get activated and our emotions come up and we get triggered and we feel them in different parts of our body. In that, and this is how I learned, was I made friends with the emotions. No matter if they were good, bad, or indifferent, I made friends with them. I understood them. I talked to them. I looked them in the eye. And in doing so, they didn't have the power anymore. Did I feel the emotion? I could now feel the emotion, but it didn't trigger me. I didn't have to accept it. And the other part of that is that those feelings that come up, those are there to protect you. We learned how to do that when we were 3, when we were 5, when we were 7, when we were 21, these emotions, and we knew how to deal with them because at the time we dealt with them this way. Well, that may not work anymore. It doesn't mean the emotions aren't there. It doesn't mean the triggers aren't there. But how we deal with them, how we react to them, how we relate to them changes. And so therefore, the power that you've given away and allowing these emotions to come up and just wash over you, and then all you have is these emotions, in much the same way that Sara said, you take the power back by looking at them in the full, embracing them. Those are parts of you that comes up. Yep. But you don't have to speak through them. You don't have to act through them. You don't have to be present with them. You just understand them.
Thank you, Scott. Patricia.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. And I think just to acknowledge that perhaps this interaction, we have to remember all interactions are actually not between you and that person, but they're between you and God. And for me, there is a message being delivered. Perhaps we have to acknowledge that there may well be something that we may need to look at within ourselves. And we also have to be prepared to forgive the individual. As Jesus would say, they know not what they do, and sometimes that applies. So it's about forgiveness. It's about compassion for them, for where they're at, which they've projected onto you. I have to say I would also come at it from a different perspective, in as much as I would probably call in the archangelic realms, Archangel Michael in particular, and get him to come in and cut the cords between you and that individual, and dispensing with the cords to the light, and then calling the power back in that way and removing any entanglement around you so that it dissipates all of that energy. But being able to step into real forgiveness for that person, because as Sarah was saying, they're hurting, or they wouldn't be lashing out, or unreasonably. And so it is about really stepping into their shoes a little bit and exercising forgiveness and understanding. And yeah, I mean, it's not nice when it happens. That all sounds very easy to do and very glib, and we'll just get rid of it like that. But in actual fact, it is quite easy to not to carry these kinds of feelings about, to let go of them and to ask for the help, the archangelic help, to come in and work with you to cleanse and clear your field. Michael would also bring in the violet flame and just take all of that stuff out and away. And so you are then free of the charge of those emotions, or you can experience them, Scott. Absolutely, look them in the face and know them for what they are. But the wonderful thing is, the more and more work you do in yourself, you just keep peeling away the layers and peeling away the layers until you're pretty much getting it there. It really would have to be something pretty dire to affect you. So yeah, that's what I would say, and agreeing with what everybody else has said.
David.
I'll make it quick because I know we've got very short time. But I agree, and I think there's lots of information there from both Tricia and yourself. What I would add to it is, now is time to step back, because as you say, the more you stay in that environment, the more fuel you're giving the fire to it, both to the other party and to yourself. And you need to make a break. And like Tricia said, call in Archangel Michael, call in the violet flame. One thing I do to help, because there has now been an energetic cord made between the two parties, so that's going to keep feeding back. So another way I would suggest, as well as Patricia suggesting, is to, because it's all going to be build up and connected into the solar plexus, get your left arm, put it on your solar plexus, get your holding it onto the solar plexus, and just say, this is for me, this is mine. You are protecting all that angry energy that's going in and being a turmoil for you. And if you just do this once a day or twice a day, you'll find that energetic connection with all the emotion will stop being able to get into your body, and therefore you'll have a more objective view on putting it to one side, putting it to the healing, than what you do when you've got the emotion running as well. And it's to look after yourself. It'll help the other part, because then they have to realize what they've said, because they're not giving it to you. So they will understand, and you will understand for a more objective point of view. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for your contribution this evening. And I hope, folks, that somewhere in there it's answered a question that you've got. Because I think we've covered I know we've probably had some other questions, but I hopefully in our own way we've actually covered all of those. And if anybody wants to do this again, then please let us know, because it's, we will do this again. But obviously, if you've got questions for us, otherwise we will continue with our normal programs. And we'll be back in a fortnight's time. And in a fortnight's time, we are going to be joined by Heather Prince. for self-empowerment. But next week, I'm being joined by Jane Pattle, and we're going to be, or she's going to be sharing how to work with the dragons and meet your guardian dragon, something close to my heart. So I hope that you will consider joining us again in the future. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, David. It's been a real pleasure. Take care, folks. Be safe. Stay well. Namaste, sweet souls.
Namaste.
Namaste.